Hey Zack Nation, welcome to my review of Rebel Moon, one of my most anticipated films of the year. I'm a super big Zack Snyder fan, and I'm sad to say that this movie is half-baked. It feels like Netflix just put out a chopped up version of this film, but I'm going to talk about the good, I'm going to talk about the bad, and you can make a decision if you want to go check it out on Netflix. Let's attack it. The movie is visually stunning in multiple ways. A lot of people talk about the creator from earlier this year, how Gareth Edwards squeezed a lot out of an $80 million budget. Well, part one and part two of Rebel Moon cost $166 million together, meaning they're both like almost $80 a piece. And I think he did a lot more here with his budget than Gareth Edwards did. And I love how this feels like an operatic space epic. The colors, the way the worlds look, the way that the robots look, how realistic they are, especially the one that Anthony Hopkins plays, looked like a real being that was right there. I'm pretty sure that was part physical or real tech plus CGI to enhance it, practical I should say. And the VFX overall, just on all the animals and all the alien looking animals, were just fantastic overall. It really immerses you in the world. I think that they did a really great job creating something that looks very familiar but still unique at the same time. Like in the trailer, there was a warrior with something that looked like lightsabers, but when you see it in the film, they're not lightsabers, more like heated swords, which I thought was super dope. And you can see different creatures from different lore and maybe different franchises that feel a little bit familiar. So a little bit of Star Trek, a little bit of Star Wars, a little bit of Lord of the Rings, but it all fits in the context of what you're watching. It never feels like something is out of place, and they all feel like they're within the same world and energy, which really makes this feel like something unique and a really great start to something special. And with added visuals, because you know Zack Snyder's specialty, the action is actually really good with some really solid set pieces throughout. And I think that what they did here with the PG-13 rating, they pushed it as far as they probably could. There is supposed to be an R-rated cut coming, but I think as is, I wouldn't have mind the full movie just being PG-13. It doesn't have to be that super gruesome of a film so that more people can enjoy it. I really had fun with a lot of the action set pieces, especially in the beginning and the third act, which was really epic. And I think that some of these action set pieces are worth it to check the film out on its own. But unfortunately, I have to say that this looks like Netflix trying to artificially create a Snyder Cut situation with how they chopped up this version of Rebel Moon. It has been talked about in the media that there is going to be a director's cut that's going to be released later. It's going to be 3 hours. It's going to be rated R, and Zack's talked about how different his cut is, and he's not too sure why they cut it the way they cut it for this first version. It's really weird. I was really invested in the film for the first 40 minutes. The characters, the lore, the story and the arcs, everything's going on, all stuff that you've seen before, but put together in a way that made me really get invested in the main character played by Sophia Boutella, and then these ragtag group of people that comes from different parts of the universe that have all different backstories, but they're all tied together because they are being oppressed by this empire-like faction. And unfortunately, there's a part in the middle of the film where they do introduce that warrior with the two swords, where it feels like a chunk of the film is just missing, where you would get that character development and team building as a team is building together, where they have conversations and they challenge each other. I think Kenny Sparks said that in his review, and that really lighted my head. I was like, yeah, nobody really had any internal conflict in every single ragtag group, whether it's the Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Wars, Avengers. That's just a central thing. When you have people from different walks of life, they have conversations. Even if they get along, there's got to be some banter or something, why they're together. They're telling stories about why they feel like they need to do this. There's certain characters that are tagging along, like Charlie Hunnam's character, who they try to do something with in the third act, but didn't make sense because he didn't have enough screen time for it to make any relevancy. And you could tell that it was supposed to be set up in the movie, but they just cut the parts out that shows the setup. And then when you finally get to that third act and all the twists and turns and the action and everything is happening, so many parts of the movie was cut away and cut out for you to care about a lot of the side characters, because I cared about the main character and I wanted to see what was going on with her because they invested time in telling her story and how she's a child of war. But a lot of the other characters who look cool, who look great in the action sequences, but unfortunately didn't have a lot of character development or a lot of character attachment to each other. Like there's a moment where another character is supposedly supposed to love another character, but I never got that feeling in the film. I could see them setting it up, but they never did the work to get there. It feels like a huge part of this movie's cut, and since this was only 2 hours and 15 minutes, and that means there's 45 minutes of the movie or a little bit more than that just cut from the film, a lot of that stuff is just left on the cutting room floor, and it just makes it a really frustrating watch overall, and made this one of the most disappointing films I've seen this year, unfortunately. Definitely gonna go check out the R-rated director's cut. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a million times better than this, but as is, the version of Rebel Moon that Netflix put out, it's not unwatchable. I still enjoyed my time for most of the film. It's just not complete, unfortunately, and not because it's a part one. It's just that this part one is not complete and telling the full story and making you connect with everything that's going on. So when that epic final act happens, you're emotionally invested and not just wowed by the cool visuals. So yeah, Rebel Moon was one of my most anticipated films of the year, but now it becomes one of my most disappointing films in the year, which is a list I'm going to be doing my most disappointing films I've seen this year that I was really hyped about. Unfortunately, so many heavy hitters that I thought would make my top 5, like Rebel Moon, that it's not going to. And I think that if you're not a Snyder fan, you don't even bother checking this out. You're not gonna like it. It's still some of the same similar storytelling beats that he uses in most of his films. If you are a Snyder fan, I can see you still enjoying parts of this film, like me, because I like most of his movies, love most of his movies, but the way this version is put together is just too lackluster in terms of the storytelling. So with that said, I'm gonna give Rebel Moon a D. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you personally rate Rebel Moon? Do you think it's the worst of the worst terrible thing like the critics say? Do you think it's the best of the best sci-fi film like some Snyder fans are saying? Or you feel like me where it's kind of disappointing, it's in the middle, maybe you think it's a little bit better than I do, maybe a little worse than I do? Let me know in the comments down below how you feel. Are you gonna check out The Child of Fire Part 2? And what is your full thoughts on the film? If you like my review, hit that like button. If you want to join the Zack Attack Nation, attack that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can notify my reviews, reactions, live discussions, and much, much more. If you're watching this on Christmas, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, depending on when you're watching this. And you can watch more of my content right now.